Hello everybody and welcome to the first episode of DTDcember Season 2. For those of you who didn't watch my last video, this is a series in which I'll be counting down my top 12 greatest missions in Grand Theft Auto. If you want to know more about how this is going to work, check out my previous video where I explained the whole thing. And while you're at it, feel free to watch last year's DTDcember where I counted down my top 12 GTA villains of all time. Now then, on with the video.
I misbehaved, 'cause I know it started off with a couple in my base, then I ran into some trouble.
Well, you absolutely cannot have a list of memorable missions in Grand Theft Auto without at least mentioning this one, and we're knocking it out early as Wrong Side of the Tracks will be the very first entry into this year's DTDcember. Now, if you've played San Andreas at any point in the early years of your life, there is a very good chance that the title of this mission sends a strong shiver down your spine. Or if that wasn't enough for you, allow Big Smoke to provide you with some PTSD that'll send your mind back to the horrors of Unity Station.
All we had to do was follow the damn train, CJ.
Ah, yes. Nostalgia. Anyway, Wrong Side of the Tracks is a notoriously difficult mission that I think many of us have nightmarish memories of from when we played it as kids. But the truth is that if you've ever tried beating this mission while your age was in the double digits, then I'm sure you've come to realize that it's not anywhere near as difficult as our retarded young minds made it out to be. On the contrary, WSOTT, or WSOT, is actually fairly simple if you pace yourself beside the train and give Big Smoke a clear enough shot to take out the Vagos on top of it. Or I guess you could take matters into your own hands and be a speedrunner, but where's the fun in that? You will look like a real fucking gamer though. All in all, once you get past the childhood trauma, Wrong Side of the Tracks is a pretty cool and unique mission that sees us deal with our adversaries in an unorthodox manner. So couple that back in with said childhood trauma, and you've got yourself a certified first entry into DTDcember Season 2. Thank you Big Smoke for teaching me how to follow trains, but now it's time to move on to boats. One common criticism GTA 4 has gotten over the years is its lack of mission diversity. In other words, this game's missions consistently revolve around shootouts, with the main difference between them being their various locations. For that reason, GTA 4 won't see many entries on this list, but one that I feel I must include is A Dish Served Cold, and that's because of its multi-level component and its plot significance. What I mean by being multi-level is that this mission is unique in the sense where we not only have to move through multiple floors to clear out all of our enemies, but we also have an additional objective we must complete before we're given our main one. In this mission, we have the opportunity to kill our longtime enemy, Dmitry Raskolov. But before we can get to him, we have to clear the ship's main deck of enemies and work our way up to the upper deck in order to gain access to the cargo bay. We then must eliminate more goons until we reach Dmitry, before we have one last face-off with him and ultimately put him down. While there are other missions that have a multi-level element to them, like Hostile Negotiation where we have to fight through multiple floors of enemies, or Snowstorm where we have to shoot our way into the building and then we're given the new objective of fighting our way back out, A Dish Served Cold puts these elements together in a fun and climactic way that fits the eventual death of our main antagonist. This brings me to the other reason this mission made this list, and that's its importance to the plot. Throughout GTA 4, Dmitry puts Nico, Roman, and many of our friends through so much hardship, and along the way, he proves time and time again to be a slimy and despicable human being who deserves to die. So when we finally have the opportunity to eliminate him once and for all, and when we actually take that opportunity over the likely chance of being screwed by him again, it feels nothing short of cathartic to watch Nico coldly shoot out his kneecaps and put a bullet through his brain. Oh, and to supposedly end Nico's story within the same setting that it began, it's truly poetic. So for all of these reasons, A Dish Served Cold earns a spot on my list. Now, let's go deal with another antagonist, shall we? There's just something that brings me joy when I hear the words Grand Theft Auto Vice City. It brings me warmth from the neon lights that I'll never really see. It brings me nostalgia from the 80s I'll never truly experience. And it brings me power that I'll never actually achieve because I'm not really Tommy Vercetti. But when I play as him, I can live out some of my wildest fantasies without ever having to leave the comfort of my totally badass gamer chair. One of these fantasies that I'm sure we all share is the dream of running a criminal empire straight out of the dopest mansion in the world. And the mission, Rub Out, allows us to feel what it would be like to begin such an experience. This mission itself isn't the most memorable by any means, or at least it isn't to me, but the cutscenes are what truly let it shine. We start this one out with Tommy and Lance standing outside the property and quickly equipping themselves with some heavy artillery. Then, following a shootout where we infiltrate Ricardo Diaz's mansion, we find ourselves in a mini-boss battle that's anticlimactically easy. But again, we enter another cutscene that shows our badass duo stand over the fallen Kingpin and put him out of his misery in the coldest way possible. After the screen flashes white, the game fades back in to reveal that we now own the mansion, and we even spawn into Diaz's old office to confirm that fact. Vice City has plenty of fun and action-packed missions throughout its story, but I think this is one of its most memorable just for the reward of the Vercetti estates. From here on, Tommy begins building his empire throughout the town, and in doing so, he truly becomes an icon within the vast worlds of Grand Theft Auto. But none of this happens without toppling the former king of cocaine right here. And as fun of a new beginning as this is for this awesome protagonist, let's move on to one of the endings for a certain trio of protagonists. In a list of missions where memorability is a strong highlight, it would be really hard not to include the literal last mission that we've had in a Grand Theft Auto game in over a decade. While there's many names you could call this mission, either the third way, option C, the Death Wish ending, or whatever else, the thing that's undeniable is that it's one of the funnest, most over-the-top, and Vinewoodest missions that GTA 5 has to offer. I'm sure we all know how this finale goes by now, but let me recap it for you anyway. After being given the stakes by notable prick Devin fucking Weston, Franklin has to make the toughest call of his life that will either result in him killing a close friend, or it'll lead everyone to suffering or salvation. Upon picking the latter, we come up with a plan to lure Noose and Merryweather out to a foundry where we severely cripple their forces in a last stand against the heavily armed factions. Once they're neutralized, our protagonists split up and eliminate each of our main antagonists one by one. Then they all regroup to finish off the last one in a final act of unity. Afterwards, they engage in one last dialogue before splitting up as the credits roll across the sunset to beautifully conclude this amazing game. Now this is a really fun mission, don't get me wrong, but spoiler alert, it's also the lowest ranked finale on this entire list by a wide margin. So what happened? Well, to be honest, as great of a mission as this is, and as nice as it is to see the good guys win and everything, the one thing that's always felt off about it is how the writers had each antagonist be killed by the wrong protagonist. If you've watched my videos talking about GTA 5, you'll probably be tired of hearing me talk about this by now, and I understand that some of you have your own justifications for it, but in my mind, having villains be killed by heroes they've never even met was the wrong call. And that decision has not only dampened my opinion of this game's story as a whole, but it's hindered this mission from being as great as I think it should be. That's why this finale will be placed so low on my list, but hey, at least it still made the cut. Now then, let's get on with my next entry. Much like with Wrong Side of the Tracks, I'm sure that seeing this mission's name on screen just invoked the PTSD within those of you OG PSP players. Yes, Boomshine Blowout made the list, and it'll be the first of many missions to represent Vice City stories in this season of DTDcember because of its notoriety and its novel concept. The first thing you'll notice when playing this mission is the unique placement of the camera, since we're no longer given our standard third-person perspective for this one. Rather, the camera is moved to the side, making this mission look like some sort of side-scroller. But the issue here is that our controls don't change to those of a traditional side-scroller. Instead, we still have our regular controls, which creates a bit of a mindfuck when you try to steer this forklift. Now, this would be an issue if the added time constraints were tight, but thankfully, this isn't GTA 3. So after you collect your first crate of Boomshine, you'll realize that you can easily collect the other 3 until part of your path gets blocked off. Yeah, so it's at this point that you realize this mission is going to be a lot tougher than you thought, because after every crate you collect, the designated path takes longer and longer to traverse, making that makeshift timer a lot tougher to read. From what I've heard, this mission is one of the most difficult in all of VCS, but to be honest, this feels to me like another Wrong Side of the Track situation. That is, because I beat this mission on my very first attempt when I played through this game for the first time a few years ago. Now, I'm willing to chalk this up to the fact that I played this on a PS2 emulator and not on the PSP in any form, but I still feel like this may be a bit of a stretch, so if you have bad memories of this mission, then I implore you to run it back now as an adult and see how you fare. Ultimately, I've never found this to be a difficult mission, so I don't feel that I can give it a place on my list on the same basis that I had for Wasat. Yeah, fuck it, that's what I'm gonna start calling it. Instead, I'm giving this mission a place here because of how cool, unique, and fun I found it to be, although I'll still take its notoriety into account and give it a higher place than I otherwise would have. But hey, you wanna know what an actually difficult mission looks like? Let's go find out together, shall we? I fucking hate Zero. I fucking hate Zero. I fucking hate Zero. I fucking hate Zero. I fucking hate Zero so much. You wanna know why? This is why! Supply lines. Welcome to supply lines, otherwise known as the brutalest mission in San Andreas if you dare to play it the way God intended. Let me break it down. This fucking nerd, whose mother didn't even love him enough to give him a name, so he called himself a fucking number. He built some shitty RC plane in that mother's basement, attached a fucking minigun to it, I'm not even gonna question how you acquired that, and then he asked you to go kill a bunch of FedEx drivers as revenge for being late delivering his new fursuit. Yeah, that sounds cool, right? But it doesn't stop there, because I've neglected to mention so far that he programmed that shitty RC plane with controls so bad that Satan himself had to ban them from the 7th circle of hell for being too sadistic. Am I exaggerating here? Absolutely, but that's only because this mission is straight up impossible to beat if you play it the intended way of diving down at your targets and shooting them to death, since you have to do so while battling with the worst controls on God's virtual earth. Of course, this wouldn't be so bad if that's where the bullshit ended, but this mission also features an artificial timer in the form of this gas bar. And if you run out of gas in your plane, you run out of gas in real life, meaning that you fail the mission, even if you've already destroyed all those targets and are on your way back home. Because of all of this, the easiest way to beat this mission is to simply taxi the plane through the street when you approach your target, as this pretty much guarantees your kill while also conserving your gas. But doing this unfortunately makes you gay, or if you're already gay, it makes you straight, so nobody even wins. Ultimately, this leaves you with no other choice but to just completely ignore this mission, since it's completely optional anyway, since you can't be changing sexual orientations so close to Christmas. That's just bad karma. Anyway, yes, Supply Lines is a brutally difficult mission if you play it the way it was meant to be played, and otherwise, it's boring and cheap if you play it the easy way. So why am I including it in my list of greatest Grand Theft Auto missions? Because when I think of missions in GTA, this one always comes to mind, and at the end of the day, those kinds of memories are what it's all about. Ain't that right, Boomshine Blowers? Alright, yeah, this one's a bit of a cheat, I know, but given how intertwined these 3 missions are, it's really hard not to consider them as one in my mind. In this collection of missions, all 3 of Liberty City's protagonists take part in a deal in some form or fashion. For Nico and Johnny, they're here to give the legendary diamonds away to the Jewish mob in exchange for some cash, whereas Luis is the one who breaks up the proceedings and takes the diamonds that were promised to these Jews some 5,000 years ago. In 2 of these missions, we're tasked with escaping the Libertonian by shooting our way through 2 floors of mobsters. These are pretty simple missions all things considered, but I will give collector's items some extra flowers over museum piece for letting you spice things up by inviting Clay and Terry into the fold. As for not so fast, Luis's escape is much easier since he can leave the same way he came while listening to the other 2 protagonists battle for their lives. It's not all coke-fueled sunshine and rainbows for him, however, since we'll have to participate in a helicopter dogfight over Algonquin before we're home free. Honestly, these missions themselves, while they're definitely fun to play through from any perspective, they're pretty much the usual copy and paste battles that will be accustomed to by this point in all 3 of these stories. However, the clear difference maker that prompted me to put 3 missions in one entry for this list is the fact that they feature Liberty City's famous crossroads of destiny, where all of our protagonists face off against each other in one of the most iconic moments in all 3 stories. To me, that's enough to set them apart from the rest of the missions within GTA 4 and its DLCs. And it's enough of a reason for me to adjust the rules of DTDcember to place them on this list. And that concludes the first episode of DTDcember Season 2. So now I'll pass things over to you. What do you think of my list so far? Do you agree with my entries, or do you feel other missions should be placed here instead? And what other missions do you think I'll place above these ones in the coming weeks? Tell me in your comments below, and while you're there, be sure to like this video if you've enjoyed it. Or if you aren't liking what you're seeing, leave a like anyway. Come on, Christmas is coming up, and all I want is for you to hit that like button. Though if you want to be really nice, feel free to hit that subscribe button too, so that you'll be notified when I drop my next 7 entries for DTDcember next Saturday. Oh, and if you want to bring some friends along for this ride, be sure to share this video with them so that we can all celebrate together like a big happy family before someone's uncle inevitably drinks too much and does some questionable things. Lastly, and it's rare that I plug this, but if you're trying to win this year's $100 giveaway, then be sure to join my Discord server linked in the description and on my channel so that you can participate. Or just join to stay up to date on whatever I've got going on. Alright, that's the last of my plugging. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you all again next Saturday. Until then, this is your boy Doug the Dog 6, and I'm signing off. Have a great week, everybody.
Christmas has died.